Thanks, Dan. Yeah, hi everyone. Okay, so I'm Mark Ravilious, founder of IntraDrive Limited. Started the company in 2017, and we are developing innovative powertrain technology for electric bikes. So we've got a prototype unit here. This is the gearbox and motor combined, which will fit into the middle of your electric bike. So I'm going to tell you a bit about why you might want that, what the benefits are, and the sort of journey of the company, I guess. And that's so I'm going to sort of split the talk into two, I guess. Second half, I'm going to go a bit off piste and get into some sort of broader discussion about sustainability and yeah, maybe a bit challenging, I don't know, but I hope it's going to be thought-provoking. So yeah, I'm just going to bring up a presentation on the product first. Let's get that going. Okay. Right, so hopefully you can see a picture there of motor unit. So, sorry, Dan, could you just confirm if that's come up okay?
Yep, that's all good.
Okay, good. So, yeah, basically the blinking at mine, but okay. So the products. Why would you want this on a bike? So with a traditional electric bike, we have a lot of extra load being put through the drivetrain, through the chain, and through the gearing system. And that's because the motor's kicking out about 2 or 3 times as much power as a human would normally produce, and that puts a lot more load on those components on the drivetrain. So basically, it means that for people who are using an electric bike regularly, they end up needing to replace the chain and the sprockets and the derailleur gearing system quite regularly. And there's a real kind of cost and hassle to that. It's especially obviously significant for heavy use cases like cargo bikes or commuting people who are cycling every day. So our solution is an all-in-one integrated product. It may look outwardly very similar to a Bosch or Shimano motor unit, but it actually includes an 8-speed gearbox and a motor together in one unit. So it's completely different to the existing technology that's out there. So yeah, that allows us to use a single sprocket at the rear with an extra wide heavy duty chain or even a belt drive to take drive to the rear wheel. And there's basically at the end of it all, there is substantial improvement in durability and reduced maintenance. So we're really going after kind of like making bikes far more accessible to and far more user friendly, really. So yeah, a quick slide on the market. So global e-bike market is already huge and predicted to continue to grow even more rapidly. In Germany, last year were over or almost 2 million electric bikes, were sold. The Netherlands over 500,000 with an average price point of over 2,000 euros. And yeah, one sort of statistic that I thought was interesting in Europe, last year there were 1.4 million electric cars registered, but there were 3.3 million electric bikes sold. So twice as many electric bikes are being sold each year as electric cars in Europe. Bit of an overview of the structure of the bike industry. So it's a bit like automotive. It's kind of a tier structure. You have a lot of bike brands. This is just a handful of them. There's a lot more than this at the sort of the top of the tree, I suppose. And they are supplied by component manufacturers who make all of the components, the gearing system, the motor, batteries, handlebars, wheels, and so on. When it comes to motors or drivetrain components, really, there's really only a handful of companies that dominate that market space and supply the hundreds of bike brands. So that's just to give you a bit of an understanding of that. So yeah, where we're at now, we've got a working demonstrator unit fitted to a bike. So that's the one I just showed you earlier. Inside that unit, at the top right here, we've got an image showing some of the gears that are in there. So yeah, it's an 8-speed gearbox, and it combines it has electronic shifting as well integrated in. So that means you have no cables coming in and out of the unit. It's all about making it sort of extra durable so that there's nothing to break or need replacing. At the bottom right there, we've got a picture of our in-house test rig where we can do sort of accelerated lifetime testing. So we're just sort of starting that phase now. We're kind of fairly far through prototyping and moving on to looking to start production in 2022 next year. Couple of quotes just to round off the product presentation part of it. So yeah, a lot of market interest from some of the big brands and a lot of the smaller bike brands as well. Yeah, I mean, the bike industry in general is talking about moving towards gearboxes for electric bikes, along with some other technologies. But there's a lot of innovation going on in the drivetrain space for electric bikes because there is a recognition that conventional derailleur gearing system is not really suitable or has problems when you put as much load through it as you do on an electric bike. So we're sort of already ahead of that curve. We started this process, developing this product 5 years ago, and are pretty close to market ready. Okay, so let me just stop that slide share. Figure out how to. Sorry. Stop share. There we go. Okay. Yeah. So switching over to sustainability more broadly. I mean, I know that was one of the sort of some of the questions that Dan sent as a sort of prompts were around sustainability. So I thought I'd pick up on that and. Yeah, because alongside being an engineer and founder of the business, I'm also an environmentalist and occasional climate change activist. So I thought I'd bring a bit of that to this discussion as well. And that's really because for me, that if I look at the predictions of how the world will be by the end of the century, when temperatures are likely to be maybe 4 degrees warmer than pre-industrial levels, I find that pretty terrifying. And so I wanted to kind of, sort of touch on some of that because I think it's easy to forget what's at stake and just see low carbon technology as purely an emerging trend or a new market opportunity, and to use terms like climate emergency without really recognizing it as the emergency that it is. So yeah, I wanted to kind of sort of maybe center this discussion around using the adage that I'm sure everyone will have heard, reduce, reuse, recycle, which is a hierarchy. So reduce is, the best choice, and recycle should be considered to be the last option, if nothing else is possible. And so, yeah, it seems to me that like everybody accepts that recycling is important now, and that's pretty central and normal. And more people are talking about a circular economy, which you could consider to be analogous to reusing, perhaps. But when it comes to reducing, it seems like it's quite rare to hear businesses or governments encouraging people to use less, to buy less stuff, or to talk about reducing material throughput, or even perhaps slightly more radically reducing economic growth. So I thought I'd tackle this slightly challenging topic. I'm going to start with a few sort of facts, I guess. So 2/3 of Scotland's emissions come from materials we consume. So that's the number from Zero Waste Scotland. So CO2 emissions are pretty closely tied to economic growth. If you look at graphs of CO2 emissions compared to economic activity in the world, the only time there's really been any significant dip in CO2 emissions was during the 2008 crisis, and then it sort of shot back up again once the economy picked up. So, and I think this is actually fairly widely recognized now. It's just not talked about. So, I'm going to go sort of throw in a couple of quotes from a recent report, the Dasgupta report, which was an independent review of the economics of biodiversity, and it was commissioned by HM Treasury. So it concluded that we have collectively failed to engage with nature sustainably to the extent that our demands far exceed our capacity to supply us with goods and services that we all rely on. It also said our unsustainable engagement with nature is endangering the prosperity of current and future generations, and that at the heart of this problem lies deep-rooted, widespread institutional failure. So pretty heavy stuff, and just a reminder, that's from a UK government commissioned report written by economists. So I guess the question is, what can we do about that? And so I guess what I thought is, coming back to reduce, reuse, recycle, I thought it might be interesting to sort of explore that, ask some questions about it. So to me, it seems like reduce could also be applied in the sense of divestment. We might want to think about reducing investment into the things that we recognize are already damaging the planet. So yeah, really, I sort of thought, okay, it's interesting to look at low carbon technology and investing in low carbon technology, but perhaps it makes more sense to reduce investment and support for industries which are already known to be causing climate and ecological collapse. So yeah, I'm going to skip ahead a bit because I'm probably running out of time. So I'm going to skip to the questions at the end. So I thought I'd just ask a couple of questions. What part do you play in supporting industries who are driving climate and ecological emergency? Do you have money invested in fossil fuel companies which you could divest? Do you know what industries your pension fund is invested in? Do you have a bank which funds the climate collapse? And if the answer is Barclays or HSBC, then you probably do. So yeah, and all kind of quite heavy stuff. I thought I'd just switch for sort of to wrap it up, move to a more positive outlet, which is a vision of the future. So I like to imagine that we could live in a world where there are cities which are free of cars, where there is free public transport, where there are less flights thanks to frequent flyer taxes, and a thriving staycation holiday sector. We might have new economic models which put people and planet before profit. Major financial institutions who played a role in funding climate collapse would have divested and changed their policy thanks to pressure from customers and businesses. And products like IntraDrive's powertrain unit would be built here in Scotland, built from recycled materials which are sourced locally, built in factories powered by 100% renewable electricity, and producing products that people really need, but not overproducing and not driving consumption. So yeah, I'd like to see an economy that's focused on growing rather than growing GDP. And yeah, I think another world is possible, and it's up to us to embrace that change, and it's not going to happen unless we do. So yeah, I want to finish with one sentence, which is a quote by David Attenborough when asked if net zero by 2025 was realistic or if 2050 was a better target. He responded saying that we cannot be radical enough when dealing with these issues. So yeah, thanks for listening. I hope this maybe raised a few thoughts. And yeah, and on the sort of asking for support side of things, really we're just looking for other companies who are thinking along similar lines, who we could sort of work with together. And on the supply chain side of things, we're looking for manufacturers of gears, CNC components, and so on. So if that's you, you're in Scotland, we'd love to hear from you. Thanks very much.